everyone, welcome to After Class with Ballet for All,
a podcast by two passionate adult ballerinas about all things adult ballet related.
and some random thoughts in between.
We're so glad you're here.
So grab your water bottle
Or a cup of coffee.
and join us for a quick chat after class.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of After Class. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about how to stay motivated. So we're going to be talking about what's called the Goldilocks Rule from the book Atomic Habits and how we can apply that as ballet dancers. So let's jump right in. How are you, Yelena?
Hello, I'm really good today. How about you? How do you feel after your point class and your ankle?
I feel pretty good. Actually, I was really happy when I woke up this morning that I wasn't in pain since I have been having a little bit of a issue there. I just wasn't totally sure since it was my first time being on point in like a week. I was like, oh, we'll see. Because just sometimes it feels okay in the moment. And then it's like you wake up after your full night of rest and it's like stuff just settles into your body sometimes. And you're like, I felt okay last night. And then I woke up and I feel not great. So as soon as I stood up this morning, I was like, where are we at? Where are we at? I was like, okay, we're good. We're good. So
We can do it. We can do it. We can move.
yeah, we can move. So today's episode, we are going to be talking about something. It was funny because we kind of just happened upon this subject because we realized that we had both read the book Atomic Habits, or I read it and you listened to audiobook. And so we were talking about it and about how good it was. And there was one part of the book or one concept from the book that really stood out to me. And we were talking about, we're like, oh, we should just do an episode on this because I think it really applies to ballet. And it's called the Goldilocks Rule. So I'm going to just read a couple of clips directly from the book because I feel like if I try to just paraphrase in my own words, it's just going to make it more convoluted. So the general idea is that the Goldilocks Rule, I'm reading from the book right now. This is a direct quote. The Goldilocks Rule states that humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are right on the edge of their current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, just right. I'm going to skip around a little bit. And it says the human brain loves a challenge, but only if it is within an optimal zone of difficulty. Once a habit has been established, it's important to continue to advance in small ways. These little improvements and new challenges keep you engaged. And if you hit the Goldilocks zone, you can achieve a flow state. And a flow state is an experience of being in the zone and fully immersed in an activity. Scientists have tried to quantify this feeling and have found that to achieve a flow state, a task must be roughly 4% beyond your current ability. In real life, it's typically not feasible to quantify the difficulty of an action this way, but the core idea of the Goldilocks Rule remains. Working on challenges of just manageable difficulty, something on the perimeter of your ability, seems crucial for maintaining motivation. So how do we kind of apply this to ballet, I think is a really interesting conversation.
There is so much to talk about this point related to ballet. Like, I think it's just so true. Pushing yourself, and it's not just ballet, any physical activity really. Like, and that I will say, let's talk about the famous periods, right? There is a point when you know that you've been doing ballet for more than 6 months, and it just can't stop there. That's when you start pushing to that 4%. Meaning, let's say you already done passé, not with releves, but you've done it with passés already on your group classes. Start increasing the amount of releves that you're going to do. Maybe you do 2 the first week, maybe you do 4, or maybe you can ask your teacher, is it okay for me if I try pliés releves? And the teacher would be like, yes, I haven't done it because the 80% of the class might not feel comfortable with it, but if you feel comfortable with it, go for it. And that's how we allow students most of the time to kind of adjust the exercises to their own level. So yeah. I would definitely say that yes, that 4%, it might be only for you to today do a plié relevant passé, rather than just doing your typical passés where you feel comfortable. And that doesn't push you super far away to do a full pirouette or a double pirouette, but you're already working on that direction and you're pushing yourself. And it's finding also how you recognize that 4%, I would believe is finding challenging but doable. It is hard, but you can still find a little bit of work out of it. So that's that 4% challenge already happening.
Yeah, and I think for adult ballet dancers specifically, you know, what you said about just even asking your teacher ways to modify is such a great point in applying this concept, because a lot of times, especially for in-person classes, the options can be really limited. You might be in some form of like an open class where there's a lot of levels. And so applying this concept where you are trying to push yourself a little bit beyond your current ability might mean that you need to make some modifications. And, like you said, that can be something as simple as, when everyone's doing something on flat, you're doing it on releve just to get that little extra push, because that's the whole, basis of this concept, is that's what helps us stay engaged with the activity that we're doing. So in this case, ballet, like that's what helps us stay excited to go to class and excited to keep training, is when we are having that little element of pushing beyond what's comfortable. And so sometimes that might look like you having to create those opportunities for yourself.
That's exactly the way I would put it, creating the opportunity for yourself.
And I think, obviously when we're doing in-person classes, especially, or live classes in a group, you want to be mindful of the fact that the teacher is giving specific choreography. But I think if you talk to the teacher and kind of communicate what you're trying to do, just in your training in general, of like, hey, I'm trying to really just push myself a little bit in this area. Would it be okay if I modified some of the exercises to go on relevant instead of on flat? I think that's a great way to practically make that happen. So it doesn't just seem like you're kind of going rogue on choreography.
Exactly.
But I think too, assuming maybe you do have some options. I know a lot of times we kind of talk from the perspective of maybe you don't have a lot of in-person options, but maybe you do. And so I think another form that this can take of implementing this principle is being intentional about taking classes that are a little bit outside of your comfort zone, even if that just means that you're taking from a different teacher. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to jump from taking beginner classes to taking an intermediate class. It can mean that you are also taking a beginner class, but you're taking it at a different studio with a teacher that you've never taken from before. Because a lot of times that small change can push you that little bit extra.
It is true. And we talked about it plenty of time here, and we recommended it so many times. Changing teachers is really good. You, Hannah, for instance, when you went to the Amy's intensive, you've been doing my classes for over 2 years now. You have been doing the in-person classes with your other teacher. The three of us had different perspectives, different upbringings, and different techniques. And you still managed to get great outcomes from Amy's class, because you were a little bit afraid, like, I don't know anything about Baganova, but she gave you so many good feedbacks on things that I told you in a different way, things that your in-person class teacher I have been telling you in different ways. And it's always good to get that second and third opinion. It will challenge you. I think just try to get as many options of classes as you can. Even taking YouTube classes from different teachers as well.
I always find it's so interesting how, in ballet, levels in general are so subjective. Like what is really beginner, intermediate, advanced is so subjective.
So hard.
It's so hard to know. And so I think it's always a great challenge to take even the same level, like I said earlier, from a different teacher, because I think sometimes we don't realize how used to our teachers we become, especially if we're taking, with them every single week, maybe even multiple times a week. Sure. And while they change the choreography, presumably to a degree, they might have kind of set patterns that they use, or set ways that they link steps, or ways that they repeat, doing things a certain way. And so when you take from a different teacher, even if it's technically the same level, you will be challenged just by taking from someone who's different and has a different way of piecing together steps and combinations, and even, maybe using different music. Like I know a lot of times for teachers, it's like they have a general playlist that they use. And so you kind of get used to the tempo of their songs, and this is a song that we use a lot of times for tendus there, and then you take from someone else and they might use a faster song or just a different rhythm, Yeah, and you're like, whoa, and that's a challenge. And so I think
Exactly.
don't underestimate taking from a different teacher. Like you said, even if it's on YouTube, just finding a different teacher on YouTube that you've
Yeah.
never taken a class from before, and you will probably be surprised at how challenging that can be, but in a really good way. Because if you're taking within the same level, you should be able to do all the steps. It's just going to challenge your ability to put them together in
Yeah.
combinations differently.
Yeah.
Something too that is really good for dancers to be doing just in general to stay motivated and to stay challenged is to really make sure that you're being intentional about attacking the steps that are really difficult for you in class in your personal practice. Because I think sometimes we have plateaus or we have seasons where we're starting to feel a little unmotivated in our training. But if we are willing to take a step that scares us a little or that we're consistently struggling with and make it a point that like, I really am going to invest in working on this, even though it is a little bit beyond what I'm comfortable with. A lot of times seeing improvement and wins even just on that specific step is enough to keep you feeling motivated, inspired to keep working, if that makes sense. Like I know there's been seasons for me where I've just like was really struggling with pirouettes and making it a priority in my personal practice to think like, no, I'm not going to shy away from the challenge of this. I'm going to really embrace the challenge of it and do it in a way that is like exciting and not, I think it's hard because there's a fine line here of like, it can become defeating if you're
and frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, if you're kind of shooting too far beyond your level. But I think if it's something that like we were talking about earlier, if it's something that that at your current training level, this is a reasonable thing that I should be able to do, really taking that time in your personal practice to work on steps that are difficult is really going to keep you feeling motivated and inspired. So is there anything else?
Yeah, I would say the most important part is about making those goals to challenge yourself realistic and attainable. If you don't make those goals reachable, just won't make sense and it will make you frustrated.
Yeah.
So I think if you make your goals, okay, I just want to do, it isn't going from an arabesque on flats to a straight toward an arabesque in the center. That is a no in 1 week.
Yeah, too big of a jump.
Exactly. But if you go from your flat arabesque and you plan in the between, start working on your plie, relevé, arabesque, improving your turns, and then getting there, yes, that's attainable. But then that's not just one goal. There are 3 different goals.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to do plies, relevés strong, and then you're planning on improving your pirouettes, and then you want to get that next step.
Yeah.
So it needs to be attainable and realistic goals.
Yeah. I think knowing what that 4% beyond your current ability is for you is critical to this concept really being doable and helpful. Because like you were saying, if you're not applying this in the right measure, you can really easily go too far and get frustrated and lose motivation because you're trying, to do something that's more like 50% beyond your current ability rather than more like 4%. And again, I mean, even like in the book, it says that's really hard to quantify, what is 4% look like. But I think it's just the idea of always pushing for that little bit extra beyond. Like even for me, a really simple thing that I do is, at the end of a lot of combinations, you finish in some sort of a balance. And I always try to stay up for just that little bit longer, like that little bit extra of that going up before you come down feeling. And that's just a small way that I try to always be pushing beyond my current ability. It's like, I know when it would have been comfortable for me to come down off of that balance. Exactly. But I make myself stay up just a little, even if it's 1 second longer. I think those are the types of things that you can be thinking through that are very specific to you and where you're at and your level of like, what is that just little bit more that I can do that's going to help me stay motivated and that I'm going to really see results.
A quick note though, I have been thinking the entire episode about the specific acronyms for creating those goals. And it's SMART. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So if you get those 5 things, you will be able to understand your body. You will be able to get that 4% extra above your level. And then you will make those goals possible for you to achieve. So now it's about time to say goodbye before I come with something else from Google.
So we're Googling more concepts. Thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we're excited to record some more fun ones soon that we've gotten some ideas for. So we have more fun episodes coming your way. So stay tuned over the next few weeks.
Yay! See you soon. Thank you for listening to After Class with Ballet for All.
Join the community on YouTube and Instagram, or come dance with us, our weekly Zoom classes for adult ballerinas like you.
Links included in the episode description. Special thank you to our sponsors.
See you next time after class. Podcast produced by Mission Bridge Media.